All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to unpack a really foundational 16th century text, one that has shaped the beliefs of millions of people for centuries, the Heidelberg Catechism.
So right off the bat, the whole thing kicks off not with some big, abstract theological idea, but with this incredibly personal question. It's designed to get right to the very heart of the human experience.
And this is the answer. It's the core of the whole thing, and it really sets the stage for everything that follows. It frames the entire catechism not as just a list of rules, but as a document that's all about the deep, profound comfort you can find in belonging.
Now, according to the Catechism, to really get a handle on this comfort, there are three things you absolutely have to grasp. And these three steps, they create this powerful story, this narrative arc that we're going to follow. So, let's dive in. Okay, so part one, our misery. The journey begins, and you might find this a little surprising, by first digging into the problem. How exactly does this text define this state of misery?
Well, the Catechism says that God's law, it acts like a mirror. It's not just a set of rules you're supposed to follow, it's a tool that's meant to show us a really fundamental problem inside ourselves.
And when you look in that mirror, this is the problem you see. It sets up this really stark contrast, right? On one side, the law demands perfect love. But on the other, the text claims that because of the original fall, our human nature isn't just unable to do that, it's actually bent in the complete opposite direction.
Okay, so this is where things get, well, pretty serious. The logic here is that God isn't just merciful, He's also just. And that justice demands that sin has to be punished. So if we can't keep the law and justice has to be served, how can anyone possibly escape? And that massive problem, that dilemma, it leads us straight into the second part of this whole journey, the solution, the divine solution for this state of misery. So the big question becomes, who can save us? I mean, if we can't do it ourselves, and the text is clear that no other created thing can take on God's eternal wrath for us, then what kind of savior do we actually need here?
And the Catechism gets really specific, almost like a job description. It lays out this incredibly precise, logical argument. The Savior has to be a real human because a human debt needs a human to pay it. But at the same time, that person also has to be true God, to have the sheer power to withstand the punishment and actually beat death.
You can see where this is going, right? For the Catechism, all of this logic points to one and only one answer: Jesus Christ. He's presented as the only one who uniquely checks both of those critical boxes, fitting the very specific requirements needed for a mediator. Okay, so that's the who. But what about the how? How does a person actually get this deliverance? The Catechism is really clear. It's not by doing stuff, it's not by works, but through something it calls true faith. And it's not just believing certain facts are true, it's this deep personal confidence that this gift of salvation is for you.
So, we have this idea of faith. The Catechism then moves on to explain how that faith gets confirmed, how it's strengthened, using real, tangible, physical things.
And it points to two specific practices it calls sacraments. Think of them as visible signs and seals. They're meant to be these physical handshakes, tangible assurances of the spiritual promises that you read about in the gospel.
Okay, now this slide is fascinating because it gets right into a major historical debate. The Catechism draws a really sharp line in the sand between its understanding of the Holy Supper and the Roman Catholic Mass. I mean, check out the differences in how they view the sacrifice. Is it a finished, one-time thing or a daily event? What do the bread and wine mean? And even where is Christ to be worshipped? This was a huge deal during the Protestant Reformation. So, we've looked at the problem, our misery. We've looked at the solution, our deliverance. Now, the Catechism's final section tackles the next logical question, which is, okay, so how are we supposed to live now? And this is such a critical point. The text is crystal clear about this. Good works are not how you earn salvation. Not at all. Instead, they're the natural, joyful result of already having it. It's not about payment. It's all about gratitude. So what's the roadmap for this life of gratitude? Well, it's God's law. Yep, the same law that first showed us our misery, but now it's got a totally new purpose. It's not a ladder to climb to earn salvation. It's a guide for thankfully living out your relationship with God and with the people around you.
And to wrap up this whole section on gratitude, the Catechism zooms in on prayer. And it doesn't just give it a passing mention, it calls it the single most important part of thankfulness. It then goes on to give a really detailed breakdown of the Lord's Prayer as the perfect model for how to talk to God.
And there you have it, the full journey. You can see how the Heidelberg Catechism lays out this complete, really logical path for the Christian life. It flows so naturally from this deep human need to a divine solution, and then to this transformed, grateful way of living.
It's really a full-circle story of comfort.
You know, this three-part structure, misery, deliverance, and gratitude, it's more than just a list of beliefs. It's a powerful story. It's a lens that millions of people for centuries have used to find comfort and purpose, which really leaves us with a big question to think about. How does a framework this old continue to have such an enduring impact today?